and answer simple questions, one of which is, which kind of a country do we want to live in? Which kind of country do we want our children to inherit? Which country and how long do we want to stand aside? And as has been said, complaining about bad leaders. We have a chance to change the destiny of this country on the 9th of August this year. And I'm honored to stand here today on a day I believe will mark a new beginning. My name is JB Muturi, and you delegates and Kenyans are just in time for change. Martin Luther once said that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. Ladies and gentlemen, your health matters. Your children's education matters. Your food matters. Your shelter matters. Your job matters. Service delivery matters. Your integrity and your prosperity matters. Ladies and gentlemen, order in your country matters. It is often said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Kenyans deserve a break, and I believe we're just in time for change, but the change can only come when leaders of integrity stand up and take the leadership mantle. That is why I, JB Muturi, with great humility, ladies and gentlemen, and a profound sense of gratitude, hereby accept the privilege of running for president on the Democratic Party ticket. Asanteni sana. Ladies and gentlemen, those who stand for nothing fall for everything. In the last 30 years, the Democratic Party's motto of Umoja na Haki, which translates as to unity and justice, has been the driving force of this party. And the party patron, my good friend for many years, the Honorable Joseph Consolo Munyao, has just given you the history. It is the same Democratic Party ideals that made our beloved Mwai Kibaki, who's the first candidate to run on this party's presidential ticket, and others seek, as we've been told, economic, social, and political justice for the people of Kenya, which journey, as we all know, culminated in the adoption and promulgation of the new constitution on 27th of August 2010. But ladies and gentlemen, how did I get here? How did a son of a farmer, peasant farmer, from a tiny marginalized community called the Mbere, even imagine running for President of the Republic of Kenya? Mine is a short story of a little boy born from a family of 8, raised from humble remote village called Kanyambora, some of you know it, in Mbere North constituency, Embu County. My late sister, Monica Modoni, may God rest her soul in eternal peace, had to forfeit her studies for me to continue with school, since my parents could not afford to pay school fees for both of us. I was privileged to get a chance to join Kangaroo School, where through hard work and by the grace of God, I managed to get acceptance to the University of Nairobi to study law. I later on served as a magistrate, and the patron has just hinted at, in the judiciary for slightly over 15 years in different parts of this country, including but not limited to Bungoma County, Githunguri and Thika in Kiambu County, Machakos County, and finally in Nairobi. I've been a member of parliament for 2 terms representing the people of the then Siakago constituency. And as you all know, I'm now finishing my 9th year as a Speaker of the National Assembly, where I have overseen the passage of well in excess of 257 laws, which is the highest record since independence. On matters education, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that my story is not any different from many of other Kenyans. I believe that parents surely should not have to decide which child to educate and which not to. And that's why in the Democratic Party government, which I intend to form, education will be free right from primary school through to secondary education. For I firmly believe, ladies and gentlemen, we must do a proper needs assessment to first determine how many kids are expected to be in school at each given year, so that we prepare the necessary physical infrastructure as well as the human resource in form of teachers and instructors. Free primary and secondary education is not enough. We must move from a system that glorifies academic qualifications, like degrees, to a system that encourages the development of skill sets that are aligned with the vision of the country. Because there's no point having those many degrees if you have no practical skills in the Kenya of today. At the same time, students who qualify for technical colleges admission under my tutorage will be given free bursary and the institutions where they go to will be given government support to expand and acquire modern technology and equipment for training of our students. All public schools will have access to the internet across all the 47 counties while at the same time standardizing the classrooms. For I believe, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot have some students learning under trees in the 21st century, as I know is a situation in some parts of this country where I have myself visited. Higher education loans for needy students will be turned into grants. For I believe, ladies and gentlemen, if it wasn't for the bursaries, even I wouldn't be standing here before you. Every student deserves a fair chance to be something in this country, and we must level the playing field. And if they think that these are just dreams, we will say to them with our unwavering conviction that you're just in time for change. My speech today will not go into the details of the various topics, some of which are well captured in the draft manifesto which we have developed. But let me just pose to ask a question. How many of you are happy with the economy as it is today? It is a fact and a truth that our economy is not doing well. It's a fact that unemployment is high, inflation is increasing, businesses are failing, our debt levels, even at the individual level, are rising, just as the debts are rising in the country. Foodstuffs have become more expensive. Basic kitchen ingredients like tomatoes are fallen into the luxury category for those living on less than $1 a day. We all know that a packet of unga is no longer affordable to many, and many families are now reliant on the unga pima. So here people ask, how do you intend to fix it? It's been alluded that we must begin by reducing the cost of borrowing in the markets. Indeed, as an example, the famous Fuliza run by Safaricom, which we have all utilized at one point or another, charges an interest rate of 1% per day. And that translates to more than 350% a year. Ladies and gentlemen, this, simply put, is exploitation of the Kenyan people, but we all know that desperate Kenyans have no other choice. How many of you here have been told by friends, usitume kwa namba hii, nimefuliza? Wangapi wameambiwa usitume kwa namba hii, nimefuliza? Wote. The reason, however, ladies and gentlemen, why Fuliza usage is so high in this country is because of the convenience. The transaction is quick and easy and requires no elaborate processes, and the money is released immediately. And once it is released, therein lies the trouble for all of us. Because of that 1% interest per day. Woe unto you if you do not repay within 10 days. There are three ways to deal with this problem. The first one being to bring legislation in Parliament to outlaw these unjust and predatory rates. But this will just reduce the money that is being lent and will not solve the problem of Kenyans needing money. So what's the second step? For me, that step must be on the route for the government to stop borrowing money from the local markets, and therefore the local commercial banks will have no alternative but to lower their lending rates, which will in turn encourage the uptake of loans by Mwananchi, thereby spurring economic growth. The third step would be revolutionizing our banking system and become world leaders in the process of moving to 100% digital banking, where our mobile phones become our bank accounts. Once we achieve this, our youth, and we've learned enough about that, will be able to access affordable loans on easy terms and be able to start earning a living. And while of this youth agenda, I believe that the true marginalized are actually the youth of this country. And this is where we need to start our economic revival. Ladies and gentlemen, as president, first thing I'll do is to scrap the Ministry of Youth. For indeed, how can the youth, who account for more than 75% of the population, have only one out of 22 ministries? They account for more than 75% of the population, and the government creates one ministry, which then in turn is reduced into a state department, accounting for only 5%, a paltry figure. In my government, all the ministries should be youth-centric. They should focus on dealing with the youth and have dedicated personnel to ensure that the ministries remain focused on youth affairs. Our entire fiscal and monetary policy must also be tailored to ensure that the youth are at the center. That means that our tax policies should allow the growth of businesses for our youth. We must, in that process, have preferential taxes and predictable tax regimes to young budding entrepreneurs by having tax rebates and other tax incentives and tax breaks targeting the youth. For instance, house loans for young first-time homeowners should be backed by the government to ensure cheap and available mortgages. The youth need to be brought fully into the economy. Other measures should be employed to ensure that they are the focal point. Ladies and gentlemen, agriculture is the mainstay of the Kenyan economy, contributing about 60% of the GDP and employing about 80% of the workforce. It's therefore true to say that the growth of agriculture is indeed the growth of Kenya. The first step to increasing our agricultural yield is to move away from rain-fed agriculture to a stable irrigation system. As we build the infrastructure for that, there are a few quick wins which we can make along the way. First, we must reduce post-production losses. On average, it has been reported that we lose over 30% of our farm produce after harvest. We need to urgently address the issue of storage to ensure that we safely and hygienically store our produce by employing new technology in our storage facilities, including increasing our cold storage capacities. Next, we need to address the issue of farm inputs and the exorbitant costs. Kenyan produce has become increasingly uncompetitive as it is priced too high due to the high cost of inputs. We must encourage the production of farm inputs locally and zero-rate taxation on those that are imported into the country. We must also find the right markets for our produce, markets that are willing to pay the right prices for our produce. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, as I traverse through different parts of the Mount Kenya region, I see tons and tons of avocados rotting on the ground, and I wonder if some young people set up avocado oil processing plants, would they not make a living from these discarded avocados? It is worth noting that an avocado has about 15 bioproducts. On the other hand, scientific studies have also shown that sugarcane farming takes approximately 24 months to grow in Western Kenya, and it is therefore necessary for us to consider what other mechanisms can be employed to promote more economically viable agricultural practices, including but not limited to issues of sugar beet and dairy farming. We must also encourage large-scale sugarcane farming in other parts of the country. I've seen mangoes and other fruits falling and rotting in Ukambani and other parts of the coast province. They could have easily been processed into fruit pulp and fruit juice in a viable industry. But this is not happening. It is important to appreciate that agriculture in our constitution is a devolved function. And therefore, a Democratic Party government will want to work with counties to encourage the development and growth of agro-processing industries to add value to our produce. This will be done by promoting and supporting a strong agro-processing sector where all our young people will be able to make a living processing produce. It's not about getting jobs for our youth. It's about getting them opportunities to earn a living by getting capital and starting businesses that will make the country grow. Our youth are ready not to be just job seekers, but to be employers. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the issues affecting northern Kenya, mainly water and pasture. And I'm happy as I tackle this particular aspect. The delegate from Garissa did allude to this as a forgotten part of the country. The major reason for conflict in this region is the fight for water and pasture. Indeed, the insecurity in the region can be attributed to these two factors. Let me say that Kenya is blessed with a huge number of livestock. Indeed, its sheer numbers can rival those of Botswana. If the northern Kenya herds were properly utilized, that region would easily become one of the largest sectors of our economy and one of the largest foreign exchange earners. Indeed, I firmly believe that northern Kenya should and could be made the Texas of Kenya. The marginalized to become the center of our agricultural economy. First, I would institute a Marshall Plan. And the first step would be to build dams, ponds, wells, and boreholes all over northern Kenya. We do this by leveraging on the assets that we have, which is the armed forces, the Ministry of Agriculture, the National Youth Service, and the counties themselves in those regions. The plan is simple. The Army will set up mobile units supported by the Ministry of Agriculture, the National Youth Service, and the counties that will move from place to place, setting up camp and utilizing the local people to build the dams, the ponds, the wells, and the boreholes needed. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, the military, our military, has all the expertise to do such an exercise. And I believe within a span of 2 to 3 years, we should have completed this phase. And of course, one of the other benefits would be the increased security in the region due to the presence of the army. And since they are also using local labor, the people in the area would in turn also have money in their pockets. Simultaneously, we will start a process of demarcating and preparing a quarantine zone for all the livestock that will be brought to the market, which I ideally would locate in Isiolo. Isiolo is a perfect place, being that is the Kenya we want. And that is the Kenyan whom you've said you want to be, that we want. We therefore need Mwangaza to light the darkness of corruption. It's not surprising that the symbol of this party is Mwangaza, the lantern. We need to have a comprehensive strategy which will rope in government, the business community, the clergy, the media, and the civil society to reach out to the people and make them to be the champions of the anti-corruption campaign. Ladies and gentlemen, as you may have heard, I have a word of experience having been involved in caucuses that deal with this issue of anti-corruption, both in the country, in the continent, and globally. I know the tools. We will activate them. All that I require of you, ladies and gentlemen, and Kenyans at large, is your support. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot conclude without talking about another topic that is very close to my heart. That's the topic of healthcare. I wish to appreciate the tremendous efforts that the current government has made in this area. My first step would be, first of all, to appreciate that our nation is a working nation. And the Kenyan people must be healthy. The fact, so ladies and gentlemen, is that you're only one disease away from poverty. And the government must understand that at all times. While appreciating that health is a devolved function and cannot be streamlined without the county having county-specific measures with unique solutions that account to the demographics of the specific counties, the national government must lead with policies that address the issue of quality, affordable, and/or free healthcare. We must, at the national level, streamline the national institutions like the NHIF and KEMSA. I have some experience. I don't know. The NHIF, as it is structured today, is designed for corruption. This is because fictitious claims can be made several times by several doctors and several hospitals, even when no citizen has been attended to. And yet, those claims will be paid and they run into billions. We have to restructure the entire NHIF system to meet the needs of our healthcare system. It is very fresh in our minds that, of course, KEMSA has recently become a cash cow, and we must therefore deliberately change its entire policy. We shall also set up in our government a health commission which will help to streamline the health sector. We must also strive to establish 47 new county referral hospitals with standardized services in all the 47 counties, which will enhance accessibility and ease of the pressure that is currently on Kenyatta National Hospital. Adequate funding to counties will also allow us to employ adequate medics in conjunction with the county governments. We believe that in the same wavelength, our leaders, starting from myself, must be compelled to seek medical care for themselves and their immediate families locally. Just because, ladies and gentlemen, we have good doctors here. We must show confidence in our own health care, and if something isn't working, then we must fix it based on our experiences. The Democratic Party of Kenya government will declare the state of mental health care in Kenya as a major threat to national development that ought to be declared a national emergency. In this regard, we will collaborate with the private sector to directly fund the establishment of a neuropsychiatric institute, establishing a modern mental health facility with all the necessary infrastructure to provide the highest mental health quality care that patients deserve. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about politics. Where are we politically? Let me give some background. In 1992 and 1997, after the repeal, as the patron did indicate, of Section 2A of the former Constitution, several parties were formed in the country. And several participated in the elections of those 2 years. But somehow, because they failed to unite, even though Kanu's total votes were less than the combined total of all the opposition parties, Kanu continued to win and or govern because of disunity. But then, as we all know, in 2002, efforts were made at building coalitions, and the first formidable one was the NAC coalition. But as you all know, even that collapsed. Reason being, lack of trust. Everyone and their own interests at heart. What am I saying? Ladies and gentlemen, coalitions are just like marriages. They are governed by principles such as fidelity, tolerance, honesty, and integrity. And the glue that keeps them together is simple. That glue is consultations, consensus, cooperation, and compromise. Without these four, coalitions will fail. Here's a typical example, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, you all know. In 2008, the international community forced on us the Grand Coalition, whose anchoring glue was consultations. And what mattered was service to people. And it survived because of that glue. We then assumed that we had already learned lessons and mastered the art of coalitions, but apparently we still lack honest consultations. So my conclusion is that it's not the size of the party that matters, or even the size of the coalition. It all boils down to the question of integrity and honesty of the parties in a coalition. Indeed, look at Jubilee now. As we all know, in 2016, several parties, about 13, came together, purporting to form what they called one national party. But I can say, they are lacking those agreements, honesty, and respect for one another, and a common purpose, the only driving force being to acquire power and form government. Today, the country is seeing an increase in the political temperatures and activities to a point where everything is being politicized. The politics of confrontation and insults have dominated the political scene. So I ask the question, how is it then that the two assumed horses that thrive in this toxic environment of insults upon insults have become the front runners in the polls ahead of the election? Is it that Kenyans don't care about the quality of leaders? Kenyans, those who live in estates, will not give you leadership of an estate if you are a person of suspicious character. Kenyans need to ask themselves, what kind of people are we entrusting with political leadership? Party hopping has become part of our political culture. Everyone is looking to be in the winning team. Others are being lured by the highest bidders, and none of them seem to stand for anything. Indeed, this is tantamount to political promiscuity, and is now in a very high gear, because politicians are moving from one party to the other with reckless abandon, leaving the electorate actually bewildered. What happened to political ideologies? The patron talked about the ideology that informed the forming of the Democratic Party. So what happened to ideologies? Indeed, I may ask this question. Maybe Kenyans may not know, but I want to be shown anywhere in the world, in a functional democracy, where a sitting government decides to join forces with the opposition to form another government with regard to the fact that it is already in the government. It only happens in Africa. That in Botswana, the former president, Kama, also, as he was retiring, decided to move away from his government and his party and went to support the opposition. The rest is history. The results are well known. You see, ladies and gentlemen, these are some of the political bad manners that I'm talking about. We must stand for something and not just the pursuit of power. It was stated, and I do this, I know very well, that political parties exist with the sole aim of capturing and or forming governments, either on their own or in collaboration or coalition with others. But ladies and gentlemen, even if you are to coalesce, you must be guided by the ideals which inform your coming together. Otherwise, coming together for the sake of merely capturing power will just be but a mirage. Because sooner than later, because the only objective was to capture power, you will start finding that you are actually terrible and uncomfortable bedfellows. You cannot share that bed together. So don't just coalesce because it has become fashionable. Find out, what does the fellow who is talking to you believe in? Is he a person who is willing to agree that you need to invest in developing northern Kenya to become the Texas of Kenya? If he is not willing to do that, you have no business coalescing with them. Willing to ensure that there is gender parity in the country. If they don't believe in that, then you have no business coalescing with them. You see, a person who is desirous of seeing the youth of this country, who form over 75% of the population, being the people leading in many of our institutions. If they don't believe in that, please avoid them like plague. Ladies and gentlemen, you must be able to share common ideals, common principles. But you know what we hear today? The common refrain, common phrase we hear is that the ground is not good. You hear a politician tell you the ground is not good, you are dealing with a person who has no principles. Telling you that the ground is not good, really? The ground is not good. Are leaders not supposed to lead the flock, especially where the flock has gone wrong? Or do leaders join the flock in the wilderness and get lost there? I thought it was a business and the responsibility of leaders to bring back the flock from the wilderness where they are lost to some safer haven. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been told that it is a two-horse race, and if I'm to get anywhere, I must join with one of the two horses, or I stand no chance. I was told to choose the lesser of the two devils, and then get a share of government. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to state now before the whole country that I'm here because I believe in a great future for Kenya. My track record speaks for itself. I have diligently served the people of Kenya in different capacities to the best of my abilities. We, as the Democratic Party, offer something different from the rest. We offer the political option that is diametrically opposed to the others, because we stand for what is right, not what will give us political mileage. And not one to enrich ourselves in. And most of all, we believe and we stand for umoja na haki. Kindly join me, come and join me in this exciting journey to usher Kenya into a golden era of integrity, order, and prosperity. Will you Kenyans join me in this journey? This election, the election of 9th of August this year, is not and has never been about me. Fellow Kenyans, this election is about you. It's about the future of this country and what you would want to see for this country and for your children and your great-great-grandchildren. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, stand for what is right, or will you continue doing the same thing, expecting different results? Ladies and gentlemen, I am Justin Muturi, and we are just in time for change. Mungu awe kiongozi wetu wa kutuonyesha sehemu zote ambazo tunatakiwa kuangazia mwangaza huu wa chama hiki. God bless you. God bless Kenya. Thank you very much.
Makofi!